Thanks for tuning in. One of the most critical things that we as people can and should do is self-reflect. Reflect on our strengths, our struggles, our goals, our blessings. The more I reflect, the more I realize how fortunate I am. As a hardworking American, I am surrounded by choice, education, healthcare, and the ability to live a life of comfort and contentment. But why does this matter? What difference does it make? Honestly, it makes a world of difference. Upon this introspection, I have also realized something else, something bigger, something life altering. We who have these wonderful opportunities also inherit a greater sense of humanitarian responsibility. Responsibility to others, to this world, to those who have been forced to live completely opposite lives in some of the most substandard and life threatening conditions. I'm here to expose you to these tremendously contrasting realities. There's a place in this world where there's more rape than there is food, more murders than there are band-aids, more acts of violence than there are homes. This place is Burundi. Never heard of it? Exactly. As one of the smallest countries in Africa, roughly the size of Maryland, Burundi is often overlooked, forgotten, neglected. The result? Not nearly enough physical or financial support for the mass exodus of refugees fleeing for their lives. My goal is to have our community help. And when I say our community, I mean those who genuinely do have the ability and the means to do so. Now, I'm aware that helping an entire country of refugees is a huge mission, especially when we live 7,500 miles away. But in today's day and age, we are able to help people all over the world without leaving our homes, breaking our wallets, or dedicating impractical amounts of time. All we have to do is donate and raise awareness. So, what is happening in Burundi? The United Nations Refugee Agency reports that the political unrest in Burundi took a deadly turn in 2015. Street protests led to violent clashes, and hundreds of thousands fled to nearby countries in search of safety. While we were all celebrating New Year's Eve, refugee numbers were being calculated. Let's put things into perspective and make these numbers more attainable. Take our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. If 1 out of every 2 people that lived in D.C. were torn from their loved ones and forced to leave the U.S., Burundian refugees would still outnumber them. As of January, between 250,000 and 500,000 people were forcibly uprooted due to chronic violence, civil unrest, and fatal mistreatment. To help these refugees and their host countries, namely Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, UNHCR had requested $391 million in 2018. However, they were only granted $130 million, leaving them $260 million shy of what was needed to help these Burundians. UNHCR Regional Refugee Coordinator and CRRF Champion for the Burundi situation, Catherine Weissner, reports that in 2018, the Burundi situation remained one of the least funded refugee crises in the world. As a direct result of the lack of funds, the consequences were acutely felt with food cuts, lack of medicines, inadequate shelters, and overcrowded classrooms in countries of asylum. So, how can we fulfill this need to help Burundian refugees? Well, there are actually several things that we can do, but I'm offering the simplest, most practical method available: donation. Monetary donations are greatly needed and even more appreciated. Whether it be a personal donation or a fundraiser led by different towns or organizations, any amount helps. Regardless of your contribution, you would be helping children and families that have been forced to leave their homes to find hope in such tragic circumstances. In an effort to educate you further, allow me to address a couple of concerns that you might have. People may have doubts about donating, asking questions like, would my donations even really make a difference? How can just a few dollars help close a $260 million gap? How can we ensure that our funds are being utilized appropriately? These questions are all valid. However, to provide you with some insight, if everyone in Washington, D.C. alone donated just $20, just once, together we would be a quarter of the way to closing the entire fiscal gap and provide the resources needed to tremendously improve the refugee conditions being experienced in their host countries. And that's just one city. Not one donation would go unnoticed either. Catherine Weissner outwardly extends their utmost appreciation to the donors who have supported their collective assistance efforts. In fact, you can see online where your donations get allocated. UNHCR has recently made strides to better reflect everyone's contributions, including both earmarked and unearmarked funding in their fund tracking and communications materials. So I challenge you to this. This month, make your coffee at home instead of going to Dunkin'. Dine out once less. Put that new shirt on hold. Try using those allocated funds for something different. Something that would positively impact those who are much less fortunate than we are. Something that would bring out the humanitarian in you. Something that would help save a person's life. Donate to the UN Refugee Agency to help Burundians being forced out of their homes survive. For those looking to take an even more active role in their support, volunteer opportunities are available all year round. Visit the International Rescue Committee website today. Thank you for dedicating your time to learning about such a pressing humanitarian cause. I sincerely hope you decide to donate to these families that were forcibly uprooted from Burundi. I promise you it will be a few dollars well spent. Thank you, and be well.